Hello and welcome back to Scripture Revisited. I want to set the scene. Let me paint a visual, a mental picture in your head to help follow along. Have you ever met someone that you feel the Holy Spirit tugging on your heart and saying, you should evangelize to this person? So then we begin evangelizing to this person, sharing the gospel with them, because by the way that we see this person and how they are living their lives, they are clearly absent of Jesus Christ within their hearts. It's clear to us that by the way this person lives, they are not living for the glory of God, most likely because they do not have Jesus Christ living within their hearts to motivate them, to lead them, and to guide them to live such a life. So then we present the gospel and then we say, are you willing to accept Jesus into your heart? And then we're hit with the response, dude, what do you mean? I already have Jesus in my heart. I've already accepted him. And that's the scenario that we see someone and we are very convinced that this person does not have the breath of life, the breath of God dwelling within them. And my heart breaks for this person. So let me go ahead and preach the gospel to this person, the saving gospel of which I'm not ashamed of. And then I get hit with, dude, I'm already saved. I have Jesus in my heart. I've accepted Jesus already. I've added him to my life. I've added him to my life. And this is where the topic of revision comes in. Revision, adjusting our eyes to his vision, the divine vision that God has given us. Many people claim to be saved. America is supposedly the statistics show everyone claims to be saved. You look at any statistics, you look at any data, you look at any survey, everyone thinks that they're going to heaven. When looking at these surveys and they ask people, well, who do you think would 100% be in heaven? Who do you think is the most likely chance? Who's most likely to be in heaven? And people will say, well, definitely Mother Teresa and other saints and those really good people. And then you know what the number one person, the number one most likely person everyone thinks will end up in heaven is? Themselves. Me. When asked the question, who do you think is the most likely person that you will see in heaven? People respond with myself. I'm going to heaven. No one, well, I won't say no one, but for the most part, no one, for the most part, people don't think they're going to hell. For the most part, people don't live actively trying to end up in hell. People deceptively are living their lives deceived that they are going to heaven because they care more about the admission than they care about the audition, that our lives are on display for God to see. And then people have been so deceived that they say, I've already accepted Jesus, and that's why I'm going to heaven because I have added Jesus to my life. And that's the key word, added. I have added Jesus into my life. Now, sometimes we hear the quote, well, life is like a roller coaster. It has its ups and its downs. But I don't think that we're thinking of the same roller coaster. There are some people whose lives are just stuck on a loop. They're in the same cycle and they can't break the cycle. They wake up one day and they're depressed. They don't have anything to live for. They don't have any purpose or any intention because they are lacking Jesus Christ in their lives. And their life is this cycle that just goes around and around and around. It's this circle that just keeps repeating itself, going around and around and around. And that is the roller coaster that these people are on. People that do not have Jesus Christ in their lives, the roller coaster of their lives is a Ferris wheel. It just goes around and around and around. And then all of a sudden, when people are presented with someone who's trying to evangelize to them, and they respond with, I've already accepted Jesus because I've already added him into my life. Because this Ferris wheel that has all of these seats in it, I've added Jesus to one of the seats in this cycle, this endless loop of my life. Because in the other seats, well, I have money, and in the other seat I have the desire for fame and fortune, and in the other seat I have my, well, some sins that I don't want to talk about, but it's a part of my life, a part of this cycle that I keep repeating. And now on this seat, it's an empty seat. I'm going to have Jesus sit right here in my life, because we try to add Jesus into our lives. But it's not about addition. It's not about addition, it's about revision. Revision. Typically, when we hear the word revision or revise, we get a flashback to English class. We spent all night writing an essay. We put all of our effort into it. We wrote this wonderful, great essay, and we're going in the next day. We're in class. Yep, we're ready to submit it. And then, oh, it's not actually time to submit because it is time for peer review. All right, everyone stand up and give me your papers, and I will mix them up, and I will give you someone else's paper. And we get someone else's paper that we have to peer review. So we circle a couple of words and then we underline some stuff, put some question marks down. We revise it, and we're pretty lenient. We give this person a nice grade. Dude, I think it's a 97. I revised barely a couple things. You had a comma out of place. Yeah. We get our paper back, and there's marks all over the place. There are question marks. Every other line is circled. There are questions written on the paper, and we have a 5 out of 100 as our peer review revision. And we think, I was so lenient, and for what? I just, I was trying to be nice to this person, and then I get this? There's marks everywhere. Come on, I put hours in the middle of the night suffering, writing this essay just to get all of these marks and mistakes and questions. And that is our immediate response. Typically, for most of us, that's our response to the revisions that we get. But it's not about addition with Jesus, it's not about adding him into our lives. It's about revision, it's about readjusting our eyes to his vision. So we hand our lives to Jesus, right? It's not about just giving this seat on the Ferris wheel and saying, Jesus, you can sit here because all the other seats are occupied. I have this pie and it has all of these slices in it. You could be one of the slices. You could be the 10% that makes up the 100 of my life. It's not about adding Jesus into our lives. It's about revising our lives. It's about giving Jesus the essay that is our lives, that has all of the dialogue and the words and the actions and our soul and our thoughts. The makeup of our lives is on this essay. And we give it to Jesus and say, I want you to mark it up. I want you to revise it. If there's something wrong, if there's a sentence out of place that I have said, if there is a way of thinking in my mind that is out of place, if there is a sin creeping in one of the paragraphs of my life, revise it. It's not about adding Jesus into our lives, it's about revising our lives. Another visual to help us out: we have spent our entire lives building our lives. We have skyscrapers. We have the skyscraper of social media addiction. We have the institute of envy that we have constructed. We have the bank of greed that we spent years building. And we have this entire city that we have built. And every structure is a part of our lives. And now we try to put a little tiny church in this city that we have built, right next to the church, right next to the bank of greed and the skyscraper of pride. We put this little tiny hut and we put a cross on it and we say, "This is the church of Christ. This is where Jesus dwells in my city." We zoom out, we can't even see the church. That's not what Jesus called us to do. We were called to invite Jesus and stand side by side with us. And then we give him the plans to our city. And we say, "Look, I know half of it's already built. I've spent 23 years of my life building this city. But I'm going to give you the plans, Jesus, for I know the plans you have for me. Plans not to harm me, but to prosper me. Plans for good." And then we see Jesus circle a couple things. Well, yeah, no. This skyscraper, why is the skyscraper of lofty things right in the middle? It shouldn't even be in here in this city. And then this, wow, why do you have the museum of malice and envy? Why do you have the department of gluttony here? And we say, "Look, Jesus, I want you to revise these plans. I want you to revise my city." And Jesus tells us straight up, "I have to demolish half of this. I have to destroy most of this. I have to tear it all down. I know you've spent your entire life building up these structures, but a lot of them have to go. Because this skyscraper that's 1,000 feet tall, the skyscraper of pride, no, 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 we're going to tear that down. We're going to demolish it. And in its place, we're going to start building the skyscraper of humility. And this bank of greed that's coated in marble that you've spent years building, no, 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 we're going to tear that down. We're going to build that into the bank of generosity." It's not about just giving Jesus a little part of our lives. It's about making Jesus the portion, the purpose of our lives. The purpose of our lives. So is our life this Ferris wheel that we just keep going around and around and around on? Or are we willing to let God tear that Ferris wheel down and in its place put train tracks? Because the Ferris wheel will never get us to our destination. We have the highs and the lows. We get excited, woo, and then we come back down to reality. And then we get back up there, yeah, everything's awesome. And then we come back down to reality. Or are we willing to let God tear all of that down and put train tracks in its place so that we can get on the train that Jesus is driving, the train that leads to the holy destination, heaven? We try to add Jesus to our lives, and that's why we're not getting anywhere. That's why we just go in circles. I see physical examples of people trying to add Jesus to their lives. They try to exercise self improvement, and self improvement will be its own topic another time. But self improvement, in a nutshell, very concisely summarized, self improvement is where you are the hero of your own story, not Jesus. And there are people who want to escalate their lives. They step on an escalator like the ones we see in malls, and without moving, they want to just progress and get higher up to the next floor. Without moving, they just want to get up from the first floor to the second floor. But unfortunately, many people apply that same mentality to Christianity. And they think, well, if I just stand still on the escalator of salvation, then it will take me to the floor through sanctification. But that's not what it's about. It's not about escalation, it's about transformation. It's not about adding God to our lives. It's not about adding good deeds to our lives. It's about delighting in the loving kindness of Jesus Christ. Because how many people on that day will say, "Lord, Lord, in your name did we not prophesy? And in your name cast out demons? And in your name do many miracles? Do you know how much I did, God? Just to hear the response, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. It's not about adding good deeds, trying to ride this escalator without moving a whole lot, trying to get up to the next level of our faith with as little movement as possible. It's not about escalation, it's about transformation. It's not about addition, it's about revision. It's about giving the plans of our lives to God, the holy divine architect, and saying, look, tear down what you need to tear down. I'm signing off on the approval. Whatever you have in mind, put it into place. I'm willing. I'm willing to abide. I'm willing to do anything that you are calling me to do, God. Because I don't want to live in this amusement park anymore. I don't want to be stuck on this Ferris wheel anymore. The world prefers to stay amused and confused rather than being bruised and excused. People like amusement and confusion, to be amused and confused, to be entertained but to also be ignorant of everything going on so that they don't have conviction, rather than being bruised and excused, rather than being in a state of suffering and going through anguish and agony, through going through trials and tribulations, and yet being pardoned of the sin. People don't want the suffering, but they want the pardoning. Everyone wants to make it to heaven, but no one wants to walk there. Everyone wants to stand on this escalator without moving and just assume that one day, oh, it'll bring me to heaven. We have replaced this idea of a path to life with this escalator to heaven. But there is no escalator to heaven. There is only one way, the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to God except through Jesus Christ. Some more examples that I see very often of people trying to add Jesus into their lives is specifically through clothing. Now, this is not a diss at all to Christian clothing. I love Christian clothing. Every time I see it, for the most part, it always makes me very happy. I smile, and these people are loving Christians. But certain parts of Christianity have been accessorized, such as cross earrings or cross necklaces, cross chains. I remember in college, a lot of the time I would see these pieces of jewelry because to them the cross has been accessorized, turned into this fashion item. And these people would wear crosses, and yet vulgar speech would proceed out of their mouths. They would clearly not have Jesus on their lips. Whenever they would speak about anything, they would be, you guys get the gist. That these people were trying to add Jesus into their lives and yet remained as false Christians. In the same way that a lot of the times we see people with those WWJD bracelets, and yet they do not live lives asking, as if they are asking themselves before every decision, what would Jesus do? It's not about adding. It's not about adding Jesus into our lives. It's about giving him the plans to our lives and saying, revise it. Mark up this life that I have built. I want you to underline, cross out, cut out that paragraph. Do whatever it takes, God, because I know you delight in loving kindness rather than sacrifice, and in the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. And even Abraham had this principle, for he was called to enter a land that he did not know. But Hebrews 11 tells us, for he was looking for the city which has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not too construction savvy. If I ever try to build a house, it would probably break down within 3 hours, if even. And even the greatest architects in the world, eventually every project that they have built will fall down. Every building, no matter how strong and tall, every bunker, no matter how reinforced, every safe house, no matter how protected, it will all fall. But there's only one foundation whose architect and builder is God, and that is the foundation of heaven. And that is where we ought to strive to be, but not on any escalator, not on any Ferris wheel, not on any roller coaster, but on the train, but on the path, on the road that Jesus walked, the train that Jesus is driving, the path that Jesus is showing us. To submit our lives fully to Him and say, look, Jesus, I'm sorry for trying to squeeze you into my life and just give you one corner of my house. I don't want you to live in the attic anymore. I want you to tear down the house and anything that's wrong with it and rebuild it, because I don't want to live in any house that was not built by you. All of this we ask in Jesus' name, that He would help us and be the architect and builder for our lives, that He would be the one who revises our lives and helps us readjust our vision to be on His vision. Stay well, my friends. Stay blessed, and Godspeed.